Madam Presiding Member, I make that 10 o'clock.
Thank you, Chris. Bore da, croeso. Good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone to the hybrid meeting of the Council this morning. This Council's meeting is being broadcast live over the internet and will be available to be viewed online now and in the future. We welcome the use of the Welsh language at meetings, and I have had no request for people to speak Welsh today, so this meeting will be conducted in English only. Members of the Chamber, please be aware that we're all on camera and you may be visible on screen when people around you are speaking, and please remember to speak clearly into your microphones. Members participating remotely, can you please refrain from using the chat function and instead use the raised hand icon to indicate when you want to speak. Please remember to keep your microphones muted when you're not talking. May I remind members that as per the statutory guidance made under Section 4 of the Local Government Wales Measure 2011 and our formally adopted hybrid meeting policy, any member attending a meeting remotely must be able to be seen and heard by members and officers who are attending the meeting, as well as by members of the public viewing the meeting. So can I ask you all to please use your cameras for the duration of the meeting. I'd like to start by welcoming the young people from secondary schools who are sat with us in the Council chamber this morning. Today is Young People Takeover Day here at Torfaen County Borough Council. This is the second Young People Takeover Day, which gives young people the opportunity to learn about the work of Torfaen Council. They will be taking over the leadership roles for the day, including the role of the Chief Executive, and this day forms part of our wider participation and engagement programme with young people, ensuring that the Council is listening to young people and that their views are taken seriously. Moving on to the agenda. Agenda item 1 is attendance. Democratic Services will be making a note of members' attendance in the meeting, but should you lose connection, could you possibly leave a comment in the chat bar on your return to ensure that this is picked up? Agenda item 2 is apologies for absence. Dominique, have we any apologies, please?
I've had apologies from Councillors Norma Parish and Caroline Price.
And Councillor Manbiowin, I believe. Thank you. Any other apologies from the floor? Thank you. Takes us to agenda item 3, declarations of interest. Delyth Harris, Monitoring Officer and Assistant Chief Legal Officer. Have you any advice for members, please?
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. With regard to agenda item number 9, which is the Education Services Update, my advice to you is that if you ask a question or enter into a debate regarding a specific school, then you can consider declaring an interest at that time. There's no need to declare any interest at this point in the agenda. I'm not aware of any interests that are being declared today. Thank you, Madam Presiding Member.
Thank you. Are there any other declarations of interest people want to make? Takes us to agenda item 4, which is the confirmation of the Council minutes for the 4th of the 3rd, 2025, starting on page 3 in the agenda. Members, could you please possibly state whether you have anything to raise in relation to these minutes? If not, I will take them as approved. Take those as approved. Thank you very much. Takes us to agenda item 5, update on actions. Members, the update on actions that has been done what has been done to implement our previous decisions start on page 69 of the agenda. Could you possibly indicate whether you have any questions or comments? Are we happy to note those updates? Thank you very much. Can I ask the members whose telephone is ringing to switch it off, please? Agenda item 6, receipt of petitions. There are no petitions today, so we'll move on. And we've got agenda item 7, which is public question time. And there are 3 public questions today. And the first one comes from the young lady on my left-hand side, Fionn.
Gwyntio is now a 3 to 19 school, the first in Torfaen. The country is therefore promoting the Welsh language and our initiative from a national perspective. What are the plans to promote the language outside of schools, please?
Peter Jones.
Yeah, thank you for the question. The Council is dedicated to increasing the number of Welsh speakers across the borough and expanding language options for parents seeking Welsh medium education through its Welsh Education Strategic Plan, WESP. The upcoming debate in the Senedd, the Welsh Parliament, on the Welsh Language and Education Bill aims to enhance the skills of all pupils, particularly those in English medium schools, empowering them also to become confident and independent Welsh speakers. Building on the strong foundations established by our schools, the Council's Welsh Language 5-year promotion strategy collaborates with partners such as ERD and others to enrich the language's presence beyond the classroom. The strategy focuses on 5 key areas. Number 1, legislation and policy, ensuring all partner organisations integrate the Welsh language into their policies and projects. Number 2, education, strengthening links with WESP to support learning. 3, the community, promoting the use of Welsh within communities and raising awareness of the borough's cultural heritage. 4, services, encouraging Welsh speakers to access public services in Welsh whilst improving the availability and quality of those services. And number 5, workplaces, creating more opportunities for individuals to use Welsh socially and professionally within their workplace. The Welsh language is an invaluable skill that every young person should have the opportunity to learn, offering a unique advantage to those in Wales and beyond. Our officers are actively engaged with schools to promote career prospects and opportunities in areas such as the council, the health sector and private individuals for individuals equipped with Welsh language skills. Furthermore, the Play Service is seeking Welsh-speaking young people to join their team and work with our play schemes. It is so important that we promote the Welsh language in the wider Torfaen community. On a personal note, my father was part of a Welsh-speaking family and he did not speak English until he was 5 years old. I regret that he did not have the opportunities that are available today to ensure that I learned the Welsh language. Given the work of our council, Torfaen Council, I am very hopeful that situations like that do not arise today. Diolch.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. For those acronyms that were in there, WESP is the Welsh Education Strategic Plan. Thank you. Question 2 is from Cody.
What are the current strategies to minimise antisocial behaviour?
You'll be delighted to know you've got me to answer that question again. I am grateful to the School Council for raising this question. As a council, we are committed to preventing and tackling antisocial behaviour in all its forms, working with partners, particularly the police. I suspect that the questioner and the School Council will be particularly interested in how we deal with antisocial behaviour involving young people. So in my answer today, I'm going to focus on this. To address antisocial behaviour, ASB is the acronym, among young people, we have implemented a comprehensive 4-strike process. This approach aims to engage both the young individuals involved and their families, providing opportunities for intervention and support at various stages. Strike 1 involves informing the parents about their child's involvement in antisocial behaviour. This initial step helps to raise awareness and encourages parental involvement in addressing the behaviour. If the behaviour persists, we proceed to strike 2, where a police officer may contact or visit the home. This step is intended to reinforce the seriousness of the situation and offer guidance on possible next steps. Strike 2 Plus escalates the intervention by inviting both the young person and their parents to a police station, and that sounds very serious. Here they have the opportunity to speak with representatives from different agencies who can provide support and discuss potential solutions to address the behaviour. Should the behaviour continue, we move to strike 3, which involves an acceptable Behaviour Contract, ABC. You get used to the council using lots of acronyms, so I'll try and spell them out as we go along. The contract outlines specific restrictions on the young person's action to prevent further antisocial behaviour. Finally, if the previous measures prove ineffective, we resort to strike 4. At this stage, an injunction is sought, which is where the court orders the young person to cease behaviours, avoid specific areas, or refrain from associating with particular individuals. We work very hard not to get to strike 4. We want to prevent this behaviour happening. So the work really happens on the earlier stages because we don't want this sort of behaviour in our community. Additionally, we also use MAPI, M-A-P-I, multi-agency pupil intervention meetings in schools to discuss and support challenging pupils. These meetings bring together various professionals to provide targeted intervention and support to help the young individuals address their behaviour effectively. The young person escalates through the process each time their behaviour is reported to community safety. But our emphasis is always, let's prevent this happening. So the more we can do on prevention, the better. I hope that I've provided assurance about our determination as a Borough Council to prevent and tackle antisocial behaviour. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Question 3 is from Phoebe.
What are the plans to rejuvenate town centres in the county, such as Pontypool, Cwmbran, etc.?
Phoebe Jones.
Good morning, Phoebe, and Diolch and Farah for your question. And your interest and the questions that by all of you are welcomed by Cabinet this morning. So the importance of having vibrant and thriving town centres is recognised and a priority for Council. A thriving town boosts the local economy, providing goods and services for local communities and supports community resilience with local jobs and volunteering opportunities. We have 3 unique towns in Torfaen: Glenavon, at the heart of the World Heritage Site, Pontypool, historic market town and historic park, and then privately owned Cwmbran Centre, a new town known for its free parking and a wide range of shops and services. Council agreed placemaking plans for Glenavon and Pontypool in October 22. The plans were designed with input from local communities and businesses and are a template of ambition and vision for the next 10 years. The plans show detail of the projects, but they're also key to addressing external funding, accessing external funding to bring the plans alive. Glenavon's Place Plan has delivered a programme of property enhancement grants, enabling empty properties to be refurbished and brought back into use. I visited the town to see the latest new business last week and can clearly see the town certainly looks more attractive now, and I'm pleased to see that 7 new businesses have opened. We've just appointed a contractor to start work on a large-scale project in Pontypool. With funding from UK government, we are converting public toilets into a cafe and making improvements to safety and accessibility in the local car park. A private developer is also converting a derelict church into a restaurant and function rooms for events. And we hope then we can attract more visitors into Pontypool and then be in a better position to attract businesses into the heart of the town. The placemaking plan for Cwmbran will be ready for Council to consider later this year. Whilst we do not own this town, we work with the centre owners to access external funding and bring in new investment. As an example, work to bring the old House of Fraser store back into use as a gym and a sports shop is nearly complete. And currently, there are quite exciting plans unfolding for a new leisure facility, which would, if it goes ahead, boost visitors to the area and provide a range of paid activities for young people. I'll finish by saying your question has prompted discussion on how we can further engage with young people when we have consultations on future projects. We do currently engage with a number of youth groups, but I think we could reach out to school councils to be involved too. Your energy and your ideas for future projects are so important to shape the future of Torfaen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gordon. That concludes the public question time. It takes us to agenda item number 8, which is the announcements from the Leader and the Chief Executive. Leader, do you have any announcements, please?
Yes, thank you, Presiding Member. First of all, I'd like to welcome the High Sheriff of Gwent, Her Honour Helen Mifflin, who has come here today to present a special award to Torvine Play Service for the incredible support they provide to children and young people throughout Torvine. I know this is Helen's last week in post, so I'd like to thank the High Sheriff for her work with us in Torvine and in our communities over her term, and invite her down to say a few words and present the award.
Gosh, it's all modern here. Morning, everybody. Thank you very much for inviting me to the Council meeting this morning. It's a bittersweet event for me because this is the last High Sheriff Award that I'm going to be able to give before I hand the baton on to my successor on Thursday. Torvine Play has a special place for me in terms of my year as High Sheriff. I think it was either the first or one of the first organisations I visited. And I have to say, I have seen nothing like it whenever I have visited other local authorities. And so it is something that, as Torvine councillors, you ought to be very proud of. For Julian, I know it's a way of life rather than a job. And can I say that you're very lucky to have him? He underpins the success of Torvine Play. And without him, I suspect it wouldn't be the force that it is for good for young people in Torvine. Now, as High Sheriff, what normally happens is that we go round and see the work that's being done by organisations and individuals in our area, and obviously that's the ceremonial county of Gwent, which is the 5 unitary authorities. And at the end of the visit, the High Sheriff considers whether the individual or the organisation ought to have a High Sheriff Award. This year, I decided to do it slightly differently because it seemed to me that traditionally High Sheriffs tread the same sort of path. And so, although I have dissected Gwent in my effort to get myself into places where High Sheriffs don't normally go, the sorts of organisations that are normally put up for High Sheriff Awards are ones that have had a number of High Sheriff visits over the years. So this year I decided to launch a nomination campaign on social media. Very modern for me, I have to say. Before I became High Sheriff, I really had no social media presence at all. And even now, I get a young person to do it for me because although I'm happy to create the content, I have not the slightest idea how you upload something to Facebook or Instagram. And the reason why I decided on community nominations was because it seemed to me there were organisations and individuals which were completely off my radar and yet deserved an award. I'll let you into a secret. Torvine Play would probably have had a High Sheriff nomination for an award in any event. But I'm pleased to be able to tell you they were independently nominated for a High Sheriff Award during my nomination period. Let me read to you what the nomination says about Torvine Play, because I think it encapsulates all that is good about this organisation. I'm doing it without my glasses, so bear with me if I have to refocus some words. So it says, the service covers the whole of Torvine. They support third sector groups and organisations led by a team of youth and play workers, provide first jobs for many young people who have been volunteering for several years. And I think we can see here a number of ex-volunteers who have come into full-time jobs. So they were absolutely right about that. They provide in-house and specialist provision for children and young people, provide transitional programmes to support vulnerable children to move up to comprehensive school, support for children and young people with disabilities. The whole team has a can-do attitude, systematically changing from the grassroots and meeting the needs of young people. For people living in Torfaen, they may not realise that there are no other services like it, and if they ever move to another local authority, they would understand how valuable the service is. And that, in my view, encapsulates Torfaen Play. As I say, I've dissected Gwent, I've been to many local authority initiatives, and I've never seen anything like it. And so you ought to be absolutely proud that this is a service funded by Torfaen. So thank you very much. I'm now going to ask Julian and his team to have some photographs taken as I present the award. Where do you want us to go, Julian?
Thank you, Torfaen Play. Thank you, High Sheriff. We are absolutely proud of our Torfaen Play service. Thank you very much. Back to the leader, please.
Thank you, Presiding Member. We recently made the decision to honour staff with a Long Service Award for 40 years of service at Torfaen County Borough Council, in addition to the 25 years award for people who have worked for the authority for 40 years. We're very fortunate in Torfaen to have a hugely loyal workforce who are committed to our area, many of whom stay with us their entire careers. So I'd like to call on those who are here today to come receive a certificate in recognition of their long service, dedication and commitment to the Council, in addition to the award they've received from the Chief Executive.
Would you like to come down to the front? Thank you.
Okay.
Well done, and thank you to you all. Leader, do you have any further announcements?
Okay, thank you very much. And just, we recognise in this council that the public service at the end of the day are the sum total of the efforts of those who work in them, and our staff regularly go above and beyond the call of duty to help people in our communities and to run services, so we really appreciate that. Public sector catering has announced its finalists for its annual awards, which will take place on the 24th of this month at the London Hilton Metropole. I'm pleased to announce that Torvine County Borough Council School Meals team are one of the finalists in the sustainability category. So a big well done to the team for their hard work and good luck to them at the awards ceremony. Next, as members will know, the Council receives various financial contributions through Section 106 agreements as part of the planning process. In each case, the specific amount of the financial contributions and its designated uses are detailed in the agreements. However, I'm keen to get a more strategic overview of how we can best use this money to benefit our communities. So I've asked officers to coordinate with ward members to talk about this and ensure you are informed about the Section 106 funds currently held for the ward and the plans for the spending of the funds within the rules and requirements. So members should hear very shortly about that. Next, a big congratulations to Pontypool United RFC for reaching the Youth Cup final last Friday. Well done to the players, Councillor Mark Jones, and all involved at the club for a fantastic achievement and another fine example of the local sporting achievement. We're all very proud of you and hope you enjoyed the experience of playing at the Principality Stadium. Next, on Friday, myself and the Chief Executive called in at locations around the borough to check in and monitor progress on the major schemes that the Council is currently delivering. It was exciting to see firsthand the top-class facilities being delivered all across the borough. When I took office, I was concerned at the lack of all-weather facilities for sport and made a promise to deliver pitches which were FIFA and World Rugby tested and accredited facilities that were among the very best in Wales. I'm pleased to say real progress is being made. The new pitches at Ysgol Gwynthlew and Abersucken School are starting to be used, and Lantana is not far from completion. It's also good to see the sports hall and other new facilities at Abersucken School too. Members have made investing in our schools our #1 priority, so on top of the investment in last month's budget, it's good to see investment bearing fruit. Recently, I visited Cranbridge School to see their new extended facilities and the real difference that's making for the pupils and staff. The Chief Executive and I also called for an update at the new Maindy Primary School, which is nearing completion and will be an outstanding facility to provide the very best facilities for teaching and learning. We also visited brand new play parks in the borough that were packed with families taking advantage of new facilities, which I'm keen to repeat elsewhere in the borough following the success at Pont Newydd. I know Councillor Clark also opened the new multi-use games area in Blaenavon yesterday too. I recognise there's always more to do in our schools and elsewhere, but this investment is delivering on our wellbeing objectives, improving lives and providing improved facilities in our communities. You'll be able to read a lot more about the Council delivering our promises in the next edition of Torvine Talks, which highlights our investment in schools, communities, roads and the local environment as part of our Spring Clean Keeping Torvine Tidy. So lastly, I'd like to say a big thank you to all the councillors, staff and residents involved in the Spring Clean so far this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Takes us to the Chief Executive. Chief Executive, do you have any announcements, please?
With your permission, Madam Presiding Member, I'd like to defer to my young counterparts, starting with Fionn.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. The young people attending today's meeting are as follows. Young Chief Executive, myself, Fionn Brown, Ysgol Gymraeg Gwynthew, and Charlie Thomas, Cymraeg High School. Young Deputy Chief Executive, Cody Watkins, Ysgol Gymraeg Gwynthew, and Olivia Fairley, Cymraeg High School. Young Strategic Director of Children and Families, Phoebe Evans, Ysgol Gymraeg Gwynthew, and Dewi Jackson, Ysgol Gymraeg Gwynthew. Young Strategic Director of Resources, Jessica Thompson, Crossy Ceiliog. Young Director of Neighbourhoods and Environments, Seren Good, Cymraeg High School. Young Director of Communications, Dewi Pitt, Crossy Ceiliog, and Owen William Lewis, Ysgol Gymraeg Gwynthew. On behalf of the group of young people attending today, I would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to the organisers and councillors for inviting us and allowing us to be part of this full council meeting. We are deeply grateful for the opportunity to engage with the council and contribute our perspectives on the matters at hand. Your commitment to involving young voices in the decision-making process is truly commendable. Thank you for making us feel welcome. We look forward to continued collaboration and meaningful discussions. With your permission, Madam Presiding Member, I'll now hand over to Young Chief Executive Charlie Thomas to complete our announcements today.
Thank you, Fiona. Thank you, Charlie.
Good morning, councillors. I am pleased to officially announce that Torfaen Council will be hosting a VE Day civic event on the Thursday, the 8th of May, to mark 80 years since the end of the Second World War in Europe. The event will give the community of Torfaen an opportunity to reflect with pride and respect at the remarkable generation of men and women who helped secure our peace and freedom. The event is due to take place at St Gabriel's Church in Old Cwmbran at 11 a.m. and will take place as a service led by Karen Brian Pippin. Representatives from Torfaen Veterans Organisation, our military, schools, and the council and others are kindly given up their time to take part. Torfaen residents will be asked shortly to submit photos and stories of locals who served in the war and to provide photographs taken in the borough during wartime. Please keep an eye on the council's social media channels or contact Chris Slade in the Democratic Services if you would like further information. He can be contacted on 01495 72578 or emailed at chris.slade@torfaen.gov.uk.
Thank you, Charlie. Chief Executive, do you have any other announcements?
No further announcements from me. Thank you, Madam Presiding Member.
Thank you very much to all those that contributed. Takes us to agenda item 9, which is the Torfaen Education Services Update, which you'll find on page 71 of your agenda. Jason O'Brien, Strategic Director, Children and Families, could you deliver your report, please?
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. I'm joined today by Phoebe Evans and Dewi Jackson, both of whom pupils at Ysgol Gymraeg Gwynllyw. I'm also joined by Andrew Powles, Director of Education, and Claire Williams, Head of ALN. I'm going to hand over in the first instance to Phoebe to start to take us through the report.
This report forms part of our regular updates in relation to the continuous improvement of education services within the Council. The last report was presented to Council in November 2024, which, amongst other areas, evidenced the progress made by the Council in order for it to be removed from Eston's category of significant improvement. Since that time, as it is highlighted within the current report, the Council has been cited in an effective case practice study entitled Leaders Securing Improvement in a Local Authority. This evidences the strength of leadership within the Council that has been instrumental in filtering through the service area and effecting significant change at all levels.
Thank you, Phoebe. The report highlights the planning and evaluation processes that exist within the department, which ensures accountability and clarity of plans and expectations within the service. The Education Improvement Plan, which has been devised via consultation and involvement from within the Council, the Directorate, and in collaboration with head teachers and governors, promotes accountability across the entire education system and is aligned to national education priorities, the county plan, and the Marmot principles, which evidence our longer-term vision. Members will note the improvement in pupil attendance, but the need and determination of the Council to ensure that pupil attendance continues to improve and increase, whilst in tandem with that we continue to ensure that the rates of exclusion decrease. The clarity of our position and the ability to support and challenge has been effective in the developments within this area. Members will note the positive outcomes of inspections of schools and education establishments since the more recent inspection regime has come into effect, and of course prior to the new regime, which is evidenced within previous update reports. Members will no doubt note the categorisation of T Gwyn, the pupil referral unit, which is being supported with a clear action plan in place to progress the establishment. New leadership within the school has been and will continue to be instrumental in ensuring continued progress within the PRU. More recently, Cwmbran High has been revisited by Eston, and whilst we are pleased with the progress made, we are awaiting formal notification of the outcome of that visit, which we will anticipate having within the next 2 weeks, and will of course continue to advise Council on any progress made within that school. Members will note the achievements against the county plan commitments, although I am hoping that members will have overlooked our ability to have secured 702,000 nutritious emails, as is referenced within paragraph 4.6, which clearly, even though it feels as if I have 702,000 emails that aren't nutritious each day, that obviously references meals. The Council continues to provide significant investment within our schools, as evidenced by recent developments of Crown Bridge and the near completion of Mainby School. As was our undertaking, when we were first inspected by Estyn in 2022, we will continue to update Council and scrutiny in a clear and transparent way in relation to the challenges and the progress made within our education services. Thank you, Madam Presiding Member.
Thank you, Jason. I did pick up the nutritious emails. Thank you. Are there any questions on the report? Any comments? Councillor David Williams.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. Just to say that I think it's extremely helpful to have such clarity and detail being reported to us, because this does mean that we can effectively see the progress that's being made and be ready to ask questions. So it's a positive story and one I'm very pleased to see. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Elizabeth Haynes.
Thank you, Chair. My comment really is I'm pleased to see that there's been some improvement. I am particularly looking forward to the update on Cumbrian High with the issues that have had for several years now. One part of the report that I was very interested in is the specialist educational psychologist and the IBIS, and I think that's a really good move. The way that children have been affected by particularly the COVID situation and having to work from home and have education from home. But I'm looking forward to and hoping that we get a full report on the Cumbrian High situation.
Thank you, Councillor Haynes. Councillor Richard Clark.
It'll come up as Councillor Peter Jones because it's only a single mic and the camera will probably be on Peter, which is a grace for those watching it, not in the chamber. Can I deal with Councillor Haynes' point first? As soon as the information is given to us, it goes public on the Estyn website. I will, as I always do, notify members with the link to the public website. I would say I've got everything crossed, but the EAS and our service have been heavily involved in the school, and I am totally optimistic on that. So as soon as we get it, we will send it out to members, and I note Councillor Haynes' question at that particular point. In terms of the rest of the report, I'd like to take credit, David, for the report and all the excellent service that's done in the service area. However, A, I'm not that vain, and B, it is totally down to the hard work of people like Jason, Andrew and the team, Claire included, referring to the second point of Councillor Haynes' question. The work Claire has done in ALN and the support she provides for school is absolutely fantastic. But it goes across the board for all our staff. We had a head teacher supporting somebody earlier in the presentations, from our heads to our staffs, to the support work in the staff, to the teams that work for the EAS and us. Sorry, let's not forget us. The education plan that's referenced in there was a truly collaborative work where all the aforementioned people and students as well had the opportunity to contribute to that. So it is very consultative and there's ownership therefore of it. Indeed, so much so that Estyn have asked us to share our learning with other local authorities so that they could produce from that. As well as taking credit enough, I would say that it was my promise when I became the portfolio holder then for education that I would always update this authority. This is one of numerous reports coming to you from the service area, so members, I hope, feel totally engaged, as well as the newsletter, as well as the seminar. You have this opportunity to question the service area and learn about the developments within the service area. So thanks to all the staff, and thanks to you, members, for your continued support, whether you're on the governing body of a school, or for your work in scrutiny committee, or the many questions I get from you during the period of the year. So thank you as well.
Thank you, Councillor Anthony Hunt.
Thanks, Presiding Member. I would like to thank Richard for his hard work. He wouldn't give credit to himself, but he's been an essential part of that team, driving that improvement through, as well as Jason, Andrew, Lynn, John, and all the team in education for the fantastic work they do. Our staff in our schools, who always massively impress me when I visit schools, their dedication to their pupils and to teaching and learning, I think, really is impressive. I think really keen to get those positive stories out there about our schools and about our young people, because talking things down never helps drive improvement in my view. The more sort of that positive message we can get out about the great things our schools are doing, I think the better. I'd like to thank councillors for their commitment to investing in schools. The budget last month put schools front and centre, and I think will have real positive consequences for our schools. And also the capital investment going in, although I recognise there's a lot more to do on that front, especially in our secondary schools. So that sort of thank you for the hard work is what I wanted to say first. But I just wanted to pick up, perhaps, I think, a very valid point that Councillor Haynes made. None of us can fail to notice the real huge demand at the moment for ALN services across the country. I was impressed by the provision that's being developed in Maindy in the new building there, also by the extra facilities Cranbridge have now got. But how can we ensure that we're sort of ahead of the curve in making sure that there is provision for those with additional learning needs? Would be my first question. And my second question, I guess, is about the Welsh curriculum and what you think that represents in terms of an opportunity. You'll know I've always been keen about banging on about whatever lights the spark in a young person's mind being key, as opposed to expecting young people to necessarily fit into the pathways that we have imagined for them. It's why I think services like Torvine Play are so essential. It's why I'm such a fan of things like Gwent Music. It's why I'm so dedicated to being a coach of sport, because that can light the spark in a child's mind as well. The youth theatre is another great example of that. What can we do to make sure that we build pathways for children that are according to what lights the spark in their minds and not according to the preset pathways that we sometimes think of as older people?
Councillor Janet Jones.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. Just want to endorse what everyone said. I'm really glad of the report. It's a pleasure to see an improvement in our education services, and I'm really glad that as an authority we've prioritised extra financial input into our education system. So let's hope the improvement continues. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stuart Keith.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. My name is Stuart Keith. I'm the Councillor for Trefethin and Penygan. My question is around the allocation of VAT to private school fees and the impact that may have on the provision of education to these children that migrate from the private schools into our state sector. I'll make a first declaration. I have 2 grandchildren, one of which goes to Rougemont School, and a second grandchild that goes to Llanrafn High, or Llanrafn Primary School rather, so who's likely to migrate into Cwmbran High. So, as you're probably well aware, the government brought this VAT in on school fees on the provision that 34,000 pupils would migrate from the private education into state school education. And the impact of this would be a revenue generation of £400 million in the first year and £1.3 billion in the second year that would be allocated to state school. Now, some of you might not be aware, but currently there's a High Court proceedings going through between the Independent Schools Committee and the government. Now, as a result of this government, papers have had to be disclosed by the government. These papers show that, in fact, they were advised that there wouldn't be 34,000 children going from private school to state school. There would be 57,000. 64% increase, the result of which would be a neutral or negative impact to the budget, to the revenue. So, moving on from that and considering that situation, Rougemont School itself is projecting up to 60 pupils leaving the school and going into state school education. Now, the two closest schools is, of course, Crossy Killyog High and Fairwater High. Now, Crossy Killyog, as you're well aware, is recently come out of special measures, and Cwmbran High is currently still in special measures. Now, I may add that this school has been in special measures since October 18, and I'm sure you've debated that many, many times. And I'm pleased to hear that there's progress being made. However, 6 years of a school in special measures, if that's what success looks like, I wouldn't like to think what failure looks like. It's a disgrace to what our children deserve. Okay, moving on. Now, would you agree, there's two questions here. One, what are the provisions being made to cope with the children that are looking to migrate from private schools into the state school sector, knowing full well that Crossy Killyog, for instance, is full? I know this because my grandchild is trying to get into that said school and there's no places for him, even though the rest of the class is. He's going to Cwmbran High. So what provision has been made for these children into allocating, knowing that in reality there isn't going to be additional funds, there isn't going to be additional money because it isn't there? And secondly, would you agree that this policy by Labour is based on pure spite and envy?
Can we keep to the report, please?
Well,
thank you.
With spite and envy. So this is a Labour policy based on spite and envy with no financial benefit that we were led to believe was the case. Here we are.
Thank you. Councillor Clark.
It's a political question, so as a politician I would ask that. Firstly, it's grossly unfair that you would look to officers to comment on political issues. I appreciate you currently recently elected, but to politicise our officers is most unfortunate, and I really think you should go away and rethink your future questions, not to put them. Fair game to ask me. I'm a politician, and like yourself, I stood for election, and I'm answerable to the public. Our officers aren't. I'm sure that was a rookie mistake on your part. In terms of the 60 pupils that potentially could leave Rougemont, as you will no doubt be aware, not all of them are in the catchment area of Torfaen, so we wouldn't be looking for 60 pupils. Our staff are continually looking at pupil numbers. It has been reported, you may be aware, it might be before your time, but you may be aware because it affects your locality as well, St Albans High School and the condition of St Albans High School. We have got to be in preparedness that goodness knows that something happened to the school, that we will have to make education provision for the number of 100 children living there. So we're constantly, juggling is the wrong expression, but we're constantly looking at the school estate where if the nuclear button, for want of a better word, is pressed, that we can make provision for those children. Yes, schools are full. You reference your own grandson in that. There would be a choice throughout the whole of Torfaen, and parents could make that choice. I don't know the position of your grandson, and it wouldn't be right and proper for me to do so. But I'm sure that the family would be appealing, and if they're unsuccessful in that appeal, they would be eligible to attend other Torfaen schools. In respect to Cwmbran High School and your point there, I'm ashamed that Cwmbran High School has been in a case of special measures for the length of time that it is. But the service and the EAS have worked doggedly to change that position, and I await Estin's report, and perhaps next council meeting when that report is public, and I will notify members when it is public, we can have that debate around Cwmbran High School then. So I think it's only right and proper that I answer as a political answer.
Well, firstly...
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Firstly,
do you wish to speak again?
Firstly, yes, no offence was directed at the director. my comments were very much directed at Fairwater High. The second point that I was going to make is when I go to that school in Rougemont, and there's a misconception here, I see people turn up in very old cars, yes, and the families are struggling to put their children through that school. And I know they are, I speak to these parents. Secondly, right, if we're going to force parents to, and we are, and I know parents I talk to that are moving their children from that school as we're speaking now, we've got to provide a valued alternative. We need to ensure that if these children have to remove from the private school, then we need to have schools that are fit for purpose. That's my purpose.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I just there's no more interested in Cumbrian High than me and Jane. Obviously, it's in our ward, and Jane is on the governing body up there. And as a former chair of governors, it's a real interest of mine. So I've had my eye on it for the last 20 years. So thank you. But first of all, I wanted to comment. Excuse me, please. I wanted to comment that as far as the chair of scrutiny is concerned in this report, I welcome the change in everything we have included. I've been included in all the decisions taken at leadership level as well as at scrutiny level. So I welcome that, and I thank you for the air of change that you have brought to the education department. So thank you very much. Our school visits have been an enormous help to us about mending our relationships with school, because I do believe that relationships with schools was actually at a breaking point. So I welcome our school visits and our relationships getting better with our schools, and I thank the Education Department and your team, Andrew and Jason, for the work that they've done. So are there any more comments from any? Sorry, Andrew? Yes. Yeah.
Okay, good morning, everybody. So just to introduce Claire. So Claire's our new Head of Service for ALN Wellbeing. She started in September. Claire was actually one of the curriculum pioneers looking at developing the new curriculum in line with Curriculum for Wales. So I'm going to ask Claire to talk a little bit about appropriate curriculums the leader asked and how we engage our learners. In terms of the question about the challenge of specialist ALM places, it is a significant issue we face. So for this September, we've created an additional 20 resource places, learning resource places, in addition to the additional specialist places at Cranbridge. But we recognise that isn't sustainable to just keep building places. So therefore, the provision in mainstream schools needs to adapt to the needs of learners. So Claire will talk in a moment about how we're trying to do that, and that's through professional learning, plus also revising the curriculum offer. And it's looking at not only the universal provision in schools, but also their targeted provision for small groups of learners. That's our way forward. Things have got to change. So I'm going to hand over to Claire to talk a little bit of the detail around that.
Thank you for asking me to come in today. I should say, as Andrew said, I've been in this role since September, but prior to that I was a primary head teacher, 2 different schools, one in Newport and before that one in Blaenau Gwent. So I've got first-hand experience of working with the curriculum, trying to adapt the curriculum to meet the needs of learners. And as Andrew said, the needs of most learners should be met in mainstream schools. So the first part of your question, I think, was keeping an eye on that need for specialist provision. And when we came to the ALN scrutiny, I talked to that committee about our plans for developing a dynamic forecasting model so that we can look to the future more than ahead of the next year or so ahead, but a longer term forecasting model so we can keep that review of specialist provision ongoing. So that's part of our priorities. But in relation to the curriculum, you're absolutely right, it's a huge opportunity. So we call it the new curriculum, but it's actually been around since 2015 now. So schools have had a number of years to sort of start to get their heads around that, and it's statutory since 2022. So what I'm seeing in schools is that work is already happening, adapting the curriculum, but the future direction of travel with the new qualifications that are coming in, the 14 to 16 pathway, that's a really exciting development to start looking at more vocational routes and pathways and qualifications. And so as an ALN team, we've looked at what we need to do for ALN and inclusion and wellbeing and how we can work with schools and the EAS. So we're developing a teaching and learning strategy. And as part of that, we we hope to exemplify what good inclusive practice looks like. So using Torfaen schools to exemplify that with case studies where that already exists, to provide those ideas for other schools as well. We're also trying to develop, or we are developing, capacity in the ALN team. So we've recently appointed an ALN Inclusion and Wellbeing Advisor who will work alongside me to support schools in adapting their curriculum, because you're absolutely right. We've got such an opportunity, and it isn't just about the lessons that are taught, it's about what the learning environments look like, the teaching methodologies, the way that pupils can be grouped. There are all sorts of opportunities, and that is about inclusive practice, which that teaching and learning strategy should support schools with. And the plan is to implement that year on year and keep updating that with case studies as and when that good practice becomes evident through our team member school meetings that we have.
And so in terms of identifying that good practice, we do it ourselves through reviews of schools. And we also use Estin reports. So just to highlight a few, Nankelin Primary, and the head teacher was here earlier, they had a spotlight on how pupils effectively manage their emotions. That was seen as an area of good practice that was in their recent Estin report. St Albans were asked to be part of the thematic review on improving attendance and their wellbeing support for learners. In one of the recent Cumbrian High monitoring visits, their ALN provision, how well it had been strengthened, was referenced. We've also got two non-maintained settings that were asked to provide case studies. That's about the learning, the environment, and independent learning. So there is a lot of strength within Torfaen that we actually draw on, and the school work is a real focus for us now in sharing that best practice. We've got a lot to be proud of, and I do agree with the leader. It's like we need to celebrate the strengths of the schools. Recognising the hard work that goes on is absolutely fundamental. Success breeds success. So thank you.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Claire. Absolutely. I think that will take us to the recommendations, which start on page 76 of your report at 8.1. Can I ask members whether they agree with those recommendations, please? Anyone against those recommendations? Lucy, a bit slow on the hand there. Anyone? Any abstentions? Thank you. That report is carried. Thank you very much. Takes us to agenda item 10, which is the Violence Against Women and Girls Member Champion, which starts on page 121 of the agenda. Jason Lewis, Director of Corporate Services and Head of Democratic Services, could you deliver the report for us, please?
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. I'm afraid that I don't have a young officer accompany me to introduce the report, as eloquently and confidently as they've all done alongside colleagues this morning. I think it was felt I was already had a sufficiently youthful appearance and outlook. The report is to inform Council of the appointment of a new Violence Against Women and Girls Member Champion for the remainder of the municipal year. Member Champions exist to provide a voice for traditionally underrepresented groups or issues which need to be kept at the forefront of Council business, although they may not be the responsibility of any individual or committee. The main responsibility of each Member Champion is to encourage communication and positive action of the issue they represent. On the 4th of March 2025, Councillor Janet Jones submitted a motion to Council seeking support from the local authority to tackle violence against women and girls. One of the pledges of the motion was for the authority to appoint a Violence Against Women and Girls Member Champion. A recorded vote was taken and Council unanimously agreed to support the motion Together Against Violence Towards Women and Girls. The leader has communicated the establishment of the Violence Against Women and Girls Member Champion in writing to the Chief Executive and Council is asked to note the leader's decision to nominate Councillor Janet Jones to serve as this Member Champion. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Recommendations are on page 122 of the report. Are we all in favour of Councillor? Oh.
Apologies, Madam Presiding Member. We've got a question online.
Oh, apologies. Councillor Elizabeth Haynes.
Thank you, Chair. I won't be supporting this motion, and that's mainly out of principle. It's got nothing to do with Councillor Janet Jones. I don't fully know her background, and she may just turn out to be the best person for the job. I've asked the leader in email how the member champion is chosen, and his reply was it was because of the motion. But surely the leader should consult all councillors to find the best or most experienced person for the role. After all, the leader repeatedly says that he has an open door and wants to work with all members. Actions speak louder than words. I've not had any communication about this, and I'm again disappointed. I know of at least 2 people in this meeting that are experienced in this field, but without communication, they had no chance of even being considered. I ask moving forward that the leader consult everyone in future, because, as his open door policy says, let's follow on from that and let's consult all more members so that the best person is chosen for the role.
Thank you, Councillor Haynes. I'll take you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Take you to the recommendations which start on page 122 of the report. Do you want to come back in? Leader?
Just to explain on this one, that we didn't seek a nomination for a member of the Labour group in recognition of the role that Councillor Jones took in taking forward this motion initially. I'm more than happy to speak to anyone. I'm sure Councillor Jones will be more than happy to work with members from all sides of the chamber to take the benefit of their wisdom and their experience on this issue. Of course, part of the reason that Councillor Jones is being put forward is that she took advantage of the open door to come through and make the suggestion, take the motion forwards. An open door and communication is a two-way thing. More than happy to continue that communication, but I affirm I think Councillor Janet Jones is a great choice for this because of the initiative she took in coming forward with the motion. So I'd like to support the recommendation.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Janet Jones.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. I'm very proud to have put that motion through, and I wouldn't wish to take this role from anyone else. Quite happily, I'm Glenavon World Heritage Champion, and I'm proud of that heritage. So I'm willing to take this on until the end of the municipal year, which is in May. But then I have spoken to Councillor Hunt, and I would ask that someone else takes on that role. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Lucy Williams.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. A couple of points to make. I think the discussion about who is the champion, I wouldn't want that to take away from the significance and importance of this motion in the first place. Those of us who went on the seminar recently held on violence against women, it was quite sobering to see the high proportion of domestic abuse that does take place in our borough. So the fact that this is officially by Torvine Council recognised by appointing a champion is extremely significant. I think the other point is that, as with any role, no one person takes, it will always be a collaborative post, so that particularly something like this, I'm sure that Councillor Jones would be seeking and supporting advice from anybody when it comes to addressing these issues. So, unequivocally, I would support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams, and I'm sure the champion is there as a head, but supportive of all the rest of the members, and they can only work with the support of all the members. So thank you very much. I don't see anybody else wishing to speak, so I'll take you to the recommendations once again, which start on page 122 of the report. Can I ask members whether they agree with the recommendations, please? Anyone against the recommendations? As noted, Councillor Haynes. Anyone abstaining? Thank you. That is carried. Thank you very much for offering to be the champion. We look forward to your work in front of us. Thank you, Janet. Takes us to agenda item 11, which is the motions on notice. Councillor Nick Horner, can you move and explain your motion for us, please, as shown on page 123 of the agenda?
We welcome the steps taken by the Council to provide more affordable arrangements for those...
Sorry, Councillor Horner, could you mind starting again because your microphone didn't pick up for online.
So, good morning, Madam Presiding Member and members. My motion is about caring for the deceased. This council believes that everybody deserves to be remembered on their death and receive a dignified send-off. Notes the concerns about people passing with no next of kin or others to attend their funeral. We welcome the steps taken by this council to provide a more affordable arrangements for those that pass away without the means to pay for their funeral. We commend the efforts by officers, members and others in the community in recent months to explore how we work together to coordinate a list of volunteers prepared to pay their respect in those circumstances. And I request that these are taken forward to report back to the council with an assistance of the members raising the awareness. The rationale for this: a few months ago I received a very impacting email from a caring professional who is a local resident of Glenavon who wanted me to spread the word about a poignant thought that he for humanity. He's been considering that an idea for a while which came to him after reading a story about a service personnel who had died and was buried, presumably at the cost of the local authority, unacknowledged, no one to attend his funeral, no clear identification of next of kin, not even the neighbours or passing acquaintances. That was a tragedy. If anybody should die and be buried, interned, cremated service, person or not, unnoticed, unacknowledged, that this sad moment, not just that person, but the society and community. I'm afraid this happens a lot. Imagine a life ends in loneliness, isolation, one which is the final moment that may appear meaninglessly. Clearly, there is some reasons why this might happen, and some person's choice, sometimes family breakups. He gets that. However, for someone to pass away in circumstances of absolute isolation can never be something that should be comfortable with. It's a symptom of increasing selfishness and self-absorbed society. To have one person at the graveside to acknowledge the passing might be a good thing. Imagine if there was a body of volunteers that would be prepared to attend a funeral for somebody they didn't know, just to be there as a human presence to acknowledge the existence of their life. I think we could make this happen. Anecdotally, I know people that would take that role. It would take the imagination, drive and persuasion, but it could be done. The services that are often via the Royal British Legion do it for their own. But I like to think it could be done for everyone. For communities like the Welsh Valleys towns who think they are friendly, inclusive, and there are plenty of cracks of people that fall through. Reaching out in life is one thing, but reaching out in death is just important. Over the last few months, we've collectively, with officers, have been looking into this poignant thought and could be made into a positive reality, and have come to the conclusion, although there is limited amount of need, however, there is and could be a time when a resident of our community falls into this tragic circumstance. In essence, the cemetery team could call a body of volunteers, headed up by a coordinator, to facilitate attendance of volunteers who want to pay their respects at these funerals to represent TBC, impartially, suited and booted. Therefore, I ask members to support this valuable motion for our communities with a collective approach in order to raise awareness, whilst I fully understand that topics like this are hard for some of us to take on board. Surely we must address the care on life's journey for our residents that we all serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holder. Do I have a seconder for Councillor Holder? Thank you, Councillor Janet Jones. I seconded. Members, do you wish to debate this? Councillor Hunt.
Thank you, Councillor Horner. I've got a message here from Councillor Mandy Owen, who's currently taking a family member to a hospital appointment, so hasn't been able to rejoin the meeting yet. But she asked me to say this. Thank you, Councillor Horner, for bringing this motion to Council today. We've had several conversations and meetings relating to your motion, and you're aware that I'm supportive of your proposal. As you have indicated, officers have been working with you to put in place arrangements to allow volunteers to pay their respects at funerals of those who sadly pass away and have no known next of kin, family or friends. Fortunately, it is only on rare occasions that our cemetery services has to make funeral arrangements for our Torvine residents. And as an example, last year, 3 such funerals were arranged where there was no identified next of kin, and comfortingly, 2 of these were attended by people who knew the deceased. I would like to put on record my thanks to the cemeteries team. They do their utmost to ensure any funeral they arrange is carried out in a dignified and respectful manner, involving the use of a funeral director and a minister. I would like to firstly thank the local resident who brought the suggestion to you, and also thank you for acknowledging the efforts of officers, members and others in the community in exploring how we can facilitate attendance of volunteers who want to pay their respects at funerals in appropriate circumstances. I am therefore committed to continually improving our cemetery service, and am happy to take this thoughtful and compassionate proposal forward and report back to Council on progress.
Thank you, Leader. Any further comments? Thank you. Anyone wishing to make an amendment? Thank you. Shall we go straight to the vote then? Do you wish to have a right of reply, Councillor Holder?
Sorry, Madam. Could we have a recorded vote, please? Thank you.
Are we okay for a recorded vote? Can we have 6 supporting that, please? Yeah, we've got 6 people supporting it. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. We'll start with Councillor Ashley.
4.
Thank you. I don't think Councillor Best is in attendance. No. Councillor Benera.
4.
Thank you, Councillor Burnett. He's left the call. Councillor Byrne.
4.
Councillor Clark.
4.
Councillor Clarkson.
4.
Councillor Cowles.
4.
Councillor Cross.
4.
Councillor Daniels.
4.
Councillor Davis.
4.
Councillor Evans.
4.
Councillor Joanne Gordon.
4.
Councillor Carl Gordon.
4.
Councillor Haynes.
4.
Councillor Nick Holler.
4.
Thank you. Councillor John Holler.
4.
Councillor Hunt.
4.
Councillor Gail James.
4.
Councillor John James.
4.
Councillor Janet Jones.
4.
Councillor Mark Jones.
4.
Councillor Peter Jones.
4.
Councillor Keat.
4.
Councillor Matthews.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Morgan.
4.
Councillor Connell. Thank you. Councillor Seaborn.
4.
Councillor Simons.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Slade.
4.
Councillor Tew.
4.
Councillor Colette Thomas.
4.
Councillor David Thomas.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Jane Watkins.
4.
Councillor David Williams.
4.
Councillor Lucy Williams.
4.
Councillor Nathan Yole.
4.
Thank you. That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, members, and thank you, Councillor Holder. Councillor Holder.
Madam Presiding members, thank you for supporting my motion. I'm going to be really very happy to be able to pass on to the resident that approached me before Christmas, just before Christmas, with such a poignant thought that now has been agreed by all of us. Thank you all.
Thank you, Councillor Holder. That motion is carried. Thank you very much for everyone. Takes us on to agenda item 12, which is the member question time. There are 5 questions for members today. First question is from Councillor Janet Jones to Councillor Sue Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. We continue to support recycling and raising the rate throughout our communities. But how can we help our elderly residents, many of whom live alone, suffering with dementia, who are struggling to identify where items need to be bagged?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Jones. Leaflets outlining what goes where have been, as you know, delivered to all residents, but we appreciate that some residents do need additional support. So if that support is needed, we'd encourage residents or their families to contact the Waste team for advice and help by visiting their local hub, calling the contact centre, or by emailing waste@torvine.gov.uk. Officers will then visit residents to discuss their needs and put in place adjustments that can help them. This could include, but it's not limited to, assisted actions, bespoke literature, or methods to help with identifying the containers. The introduction of an education and enforcement team from June this year will help us to identify those who need this extra assistance, enabling us to tailor our support and prevent action being taken against those who are genuinely unable to manage the separation of recycling.
Can I get back in, please, Chair? I appreciate that, especially in view of the news at the South Wales Argus yesterday. So we have to do everything we can to continue raising the rate, and every help for our community would be much appreciated.
Thank you. That takes us to question 2. Councillor Nicola, I think the leader is answering this one in the absence of none.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. Anthony, would it be possible to do a feasibility project on using potential road signage in order to raise awareness to road users that throwing litter out of their windows and those that fly tip on main roads through a borough is an unlawful act, it's not good for our environment, nor is it good for our taxpayer, or nor does this unsightly blight on our countryside look good? Thank you.
Thank you. Anthony?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Horan. I'm replying on behalf of Councillor Mandy Owen. Firstly, I share your frustration with regard to the problem of littering and fly tipping, not only in the countryside but also throughout the borough. I welcome your suggestion of raising awareness and awareness of the impact, especially that littering has. It blights our landscape, causes potential damage to our natural environment and impacts biodiversity. I've tasked officers to look at the best practice and measures deployed from other authorities in order to tackle this issue, including signage to tackle antisocial behaviour and litter problems. I'll keep you up to date on what measures we can take forwards and which plans we have. I also think we can communicate the impacts more out on social media, so we'll speak to officers in the department and communications about that.
Thank you. Question 3 is Councillor David Thomas to Councillor Sue Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Member. I asked at the last full council meeting how much has been spent on the climate change emergency declaration since June 2019, but I've had no response as yet. You claim benefits of this declaration including a £374,361 saving. So what amount was spent to achieve it? Is what this council is spending on the climate change emergency being tracked? And if not, why not? You said schools saved energy costs and this saving went back into their budget. Can you tell us how much that is? You also claimed families saw benefits. How much have they saved and what are those benefits? I need these figures for concerned residents of Torvine to understand the cost savings and benefits of this climate change emergency.
Sue? Thank you for the question, Councillor Thomas. I'm pleased to have another opportunity to demonstrate how the Council is both protecting our environment for future and current generations and delivering greater value for money while doing so. In answer to your specific questions, Project Apollo Energy, approved by the Cabinet in March 2023, has delivered immediate energy savings and environmental benefits. With a capital investment of £180,000, it achieved gas and electricity savings of around £374,000 in 2023-24, resulting in an impressive average payback period of just 6 months. Since 2019-20, CO2 emissions from council-operated buildings have fallen by 39.9%. The work delivered through 2024-25 is expected to have contributed to further CO2 reductions, which will be reported to the Welsh Government later this year. During 23-24, We also secured an interest-free loan of over £1 million to install photovoltaic panels at 15 schools. In 2023-24, the panels didn't have a full year of operation. Nevertheless, they generated noticeable savings on the relevant schools' energy costs. The 24-25 figures will give the savings for the full first year, but we've yet to have all of the data and billing in from the energy companies. The estimate of savings on which the loan was calculated was £232,742 each year. And typically 75% of those savings generated repay the loan, while the remaining 25% reduces budget pressures. And since loan repayments only began this year, many schools enjoyed the full savings in 23-24. Once the loans are repaid, these sites will see significant long-term reductions in their energy bills. Recognising the broader climate challenge, we secured over £2.3 million in external funding in 24-25 to replace inefficient systems with low-carbon smart technologies. Examples include the installation of heat pumps, upgrading building management systems, and adding electric vehicle chargers for fleets, commuters, and our residents. The Shared Prosperity Fund has also supported local businesses with investment in low-carbon technology. And I'm particularly pleased to report that we have helped 28 community centres and sports clubs install carbon reduction technologies, cutting their costs while modernising their facilities. And we've secured funding to continue this support through 25-26 to enhance community resilience and further reduce our carbon emissions. With regard to the food and families question, there are no available figures to demonstrate the amount that the Council's support for food share and food bank networks across Torfaen has saved individual families. But for an illustration of the scale of this support, I would refer Councillor Thomas to the Trussell Trust website. For the wider explanation on the way in which this Council factors the climate and nature emergency into all of its resource planning, I would refer you to my answer given at Council on the 4th of March. Asking for a total cost-benefit analysis for tackling the climate and nature emergency is, I'm afraid, a little like asking a parent to identify how much they spend on ensuring their children have a secure and healthy future, and how much value they place on that. Clearly, by voting for the Council's decision to declare a climate emergency, Councillor Thomas, you confirmed your own support for this vital aspect of our role, which is as stewards of resources for our future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Question 4 is Councillor Dave Thomas to Councillor...
Sorry, Madam Member. Can I have a supplementary on that, please?
On the previous one, yes.
On my first question, yeah, please.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you for that. Thanks for listing everything that you've just said there, Councillor Morgan. I'm just looking for a specific amount of money that has been spent on the climate change emergency that this council has declared since June 2019. I'm not really looking for all the other fancy bits around it. I'm just looking for a specific figure of exactly how much you have spent, including the loans, on this climate change emergency, please.
I'm sorry, Councillor Thomas, I can only refer you to the answer I've given.
Thank you. Councillor David Thomas, question 4, please.
Thank you, Madam Prime Member. Councillor Clark, could you give us an update on the funding for the 3G pitch officers are looking into for Cumbrian High? And if we have now made progress on this since I first asked in December, what are the timescales on its construction?
Councillor Richard Clark.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Again, I'm Peter Jones for this, so you'll see his picture. Thank you for the question. Work on all-weather surfaces was identified by the Leader and Cabinet as a priority a number of years back, when there was only one 3G pitch in the borough. Since then, we've been working hard to bring in funding for these pitches across Torfaen. Our Sustainable Communities for Learning Strategic Outline programme, which rolls off the tongue, The report came to us in January and was a result of long-term work reviewing our school estate and the provision thereof. The potential upgrade of the Redgrave Cwmbran High is something that has been raised by staff, governors and students at the school. When our Overview and Scrutiny Committee attended there, when the Chief Executive visited there, I think it was the first thing that the students raised with them. It's good to now see our commitment bearing fruit. The leaders outlined part of this. I was pleased myself to visit the first-class new facility at Aberystwyth School, which I'm told has now been started to be used by pupils and will be a real community asset. Likewise, staff at Ysgol Gwynllw report that their new pitch is being well used and has opened real opportunities to build on school community links. The new facility we are developing at Llantarnam School is coming along nicely, and I can confirm that funding has now been agreed in principle for a pitch at Cwmbran High School, and that a planning application has been submitted to the Planning Authority. The aim will be to complete this work by the end of the 25-26 financial year, but a delivery plan will be confirmed once we know planning has been approved and that the funding has been finalised.
Thank you, Councillor Clark.
Just a quick supplementary, please, Madam Presiding Member.
Councillor Thomas.
Thank you very much. Councillor Clark, do you mind if I just bring this question back to you next month? I do have lots of children in my ward that are keen to see this come to fruition, so if you don't mind me asking you for a regular update on this, I would appreciate that, if that's okay.
I have promised that the other two councils that I'll keep members updated. I would have emailed out members, but your question today gave me the opportunity to make this announcement. But if you want to ask questions, I can't stop you, Councillor Thomas, and I'm more than happy to answer them.
Thank you both. Question 5 is Councillor Stuart Ashley.
Hello. Would the executive member comment on the concerns about the water supply for the Mon and Bracken Canal, given the council's importance, canal's importance in our area? Very simple question.
Councillor Joe Gordon.
Yes, thank you, Presiding Member, and thank you, Councillor Ashley, for your question. So we are privileged to have the Monmouthshire and Brecon Canal pass through our county. The same canal that saw the industrial growth that created our valleys is now a treasured and popular attraction for outdoor activity. The canal supports biodiversity, enriches and connects our communities, boosts tourism and improves the health and well-being of our residents. The vision for our treasured canal is clearly captured in the 10-year canal strategy, and positive steps have already been taken towards ensuring the navigable canal is improved and developed to attract more visitors. Members will be aware that water availability is highlighted in our canal strategy as a major strategic risk to the delivery of our aspirations, which was built on the canal, which was built over 200 years ago and has been reliant on free water abstraction from the River Usk and the Trosmont Spring in Pontypool. The introduction of water abstraction licences to protect the River Usk, which is an area of special conservation, is a challenge to the Canal and River Trust, who have limited funding. In November 24, the Canal and River Trust lost their appeal to PEDU against the water abstraction licences. And then, with a dry spring this year, the impact of not having a water supply has already been noticeable, with water levels dropping and canal users' worries understandably escalating. On Friday, our leader, our MS and our MP, they met with the Canal and River Trust to show support and to listen to the challenges of funding an agreement with Natural Resources Wales and Welsh Water. This weekend, an emergency short-term water supply for the Mon and Brett Canal was agreed by all parties for water abstraction. The purchase of the additional water by CRT means that now the waters on the canal are currently stable, given temporary relief. However, the need for a long-term sustainable solution remains to protect the canal for future generations. Over overcoming the current water supply challenges is vital. A viable and sustainable long-term resolution is needed, and to that end, the Leader and I have written to Hugh Aranka-Davis, the Deputy Minister and Cabinet Secretary for Climate Change and Rural Affairs, expressing our concern over the challenge of the water supply to the canal and the serious threat to wildlife, boaters and local businesses. We've asked that they consider convening and facilitating discussions between all parties to encourage progress. Thank you.
Thank you both. Councillor Stewart Ashley, do you wish for a supplementary?
Will you be able to report back further on this? As I know you've said that, but I'm just wondering whether there be further chance to report back further, as this concerns an awful number of local residents and groups.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Ashley. Yes, of course, I can keep members informed, although I will say that the Bridge 46 group, led by Tracy Leake-Jones, are doing a superb job of educating our communities and us and keeping us all up to date. But yes, absolutely, we can get a briefing out to all members when there's significant progress. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Concludes our meeting. The date and time of the next meeting is, for your information, members, scheduled for Tuesday the 13th of May 2025 at 10 a.m. And I thank very much the Young People's Forum, Rebel Torfaen, for attending our meeting this morning, and members. Thank you very much. That concludes the meeting.